In the quiet suburb of Eldridge, where the streets were lined with aging maple trees and faded picket fences, lived Eleanor Hayes, an 80-year-old widow whose days blurred into one another like the soft haze of dawn. Eleanor had once been a vibrant woman, full of laughter and energy, but time and loss had worn her down. Her husband had passed away 2 decades ago, leaving her with nothing but memories and a modest home that creaked under the weight of its years. Now, confined to her armchair by arthritis and frailty, Eleanor did little more than watch the world from her window. She no longer cooked, cleaned, or tended to the garden, tasks that had once brought her joy. Instead, she relied entirely on her only daughter, Amelia. Amelia was 35, a beacon of beauty and strength in their otherwise dim existence. With cascading auburn hair that caught the sunlight like autumn leaves, emerald eyes that sparkled with quiet determination, and a smile that could melt the coldest heart, she turned heads wherever she went. Men in the neighborhood whispered about her grace, and more than a few had professed their love over the years. Local shopkeepers, old school friends, even a kind doctor from the clinic down the road. But Amelia's heart belonged to no one but her mother. "Love can wait, Mama," she'd say with a gentle laugh, brushing Eleanor's silver hair. "You're my world right now." Amelia worked tirelessly as a nurse at the community hospital, her shifts stretching from dawn to dusk. She managed the bills, cooked simple meals, and ensured Eleanor had her medications. In their small home, Amelia was the anchor, the provider, the light. There was no one else, no siblings, no extended family, no safety net, just the two of them against the world. Life wasn't easy, but it was theirs. Mornings began with Amelia brewing strong coffee, the aroma filling the house as she helped Eleanor dress. They'd share stories over breakfast, Eleanor reminiscing about her youth, Amelia listening with endless patience. Evenings were for quiet companionship, Amelia reading aloud from old novels while Eleanor dozed in her chair. On weekends, Amelia would take her mother for slow walks in the park, pushing her wheelchair along paths lined with blooming flowers. "See, Mama, the world is still beautiful," Amelia would say, her voice a soothing melody. Eleanor would nod, her wrinkled hands clasping Amelia's, feeling the warmth of life pulsing through her daughter's veins. In those moments, Eleanor forgot her aches, her loneliness. Amelia was everything: daughter,
caregiver, breadwinner.
but beauty, as the old tales warn, can attract shadows. Whispers followed Amelia like ghosts. Jealous admirers lingered too long at the hospital, sending flowers she politely declined. One man in particular haunted the edges of her life, Victor Lang, a brooding mechanic from the outskirts of town. Tall and imposing, with a scar across his cheek from some forgotten brawl, Victor had fixated on Amelia after she'd treated him for a minor injury months ago. He confessed his obsession in fervent letters, showing up uninvited at her workplace with gifts she refused. "You're meant for me," he'd insist, his eyes burning with a dangerous intensity. Amelia, ever composed, turned him away each time. "I have no room for that in my life," she'd say firmly, her focus unwavering on her mother. Friends warned her to be careful, but Amelia shrugged it off. "He's harmless," she'd assured them, "just lonely." One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Amelia left for her night shift. She kissed Eleanor's forehead, promising to be back by morning with fresh pastries from the bakery. "Rest well, Mama. I love you." Eleanor watched from the window as Amelia's figure disappeared down the street, her coat fluttering in the wind. Hours ticked by, slowly. Eleanor dozed fitfully, dreaming of happier times, picnics with her husband, Amelia as a child chasing butterflies. But the dream shattered at dawn with a pounding on the door. 2 police officers stood on the porch, their faces grave under the porch light. "Mrs. Hayes?"
one asked softly. Eleanor's heart plummeted as they delivered the news. Amelia had been found in a deserted alley near the hospital, her life taken in a brutal act of violence. Stabbed multiple times, her body left like discarded refuse. The motive? Unrequited love turned to rage. Victor Lang had been arrested, confessing in a fit of delirium that her rejections had driven him to madness. "If I couldn't have her, no one could," he snarled to the detectives. The world crumbled around Eleanor in that instant. She collapsed into her chair, a wail escaping her lips that echoed through the empty house. Tears streamed down her face, hot and unending, as the officers offered condolences that rang hollow. Amelia, her beautiful, selfless daughter, was gone, the one who had shouldered every burden, who had infused their lives with hope, snatched away in a senseless storm of jealousy. The house, once warmed by Amelia's presence, now felt like a tomb. Silence pressed in from every corner.
Broken only by Eleanor's sobs.
Days blurred into nights as grief consumed Eleanor. Neighbors brought casseroles and flowers, but their pitying glances only deepened her isolation. How could they understand? Amelia wasn't just her daughter, she was her lifeline. With no other family, no savings to speak of, the reality of survival loomed like a specter. Bills piled up on the kitchen table, rent, utilities, medications. Eleanor's pension was meager, barely enough for food. She stared at the empty chair where Amelia used to sit, whispering, "What am I to do without you, my child?" Her hands trembled as she tried to make tea, spilling water everywhere. Simple tasks became mountains. Dressing herself, answering the phone, even eating. The once familiar home now mocked her with
Its emptiness.
Word spread through the community, and a few kind souls stepped in. Mrs. Patel from next door helped with groceries, sharing stories of her own losses to ease the pain. The local church organized a fundraiser, raising enough to cover a few months' expenses. But Eleanor knew it was temporary. At night, she'd clutch Amelia's photo to her chest, memories flooding her. Amelia's first steps, her graduation, the way she'd sing lullabies to calm Eleanor's fears during storms. "You were too good for this world," Eleanor murmured, her voice cracking. Regret gnawed at her. Had she burdened Amelia too much? Had her dependence kept her daughter from finding love, from building her own life? Weeks turned to months. The trial of Victor Lang brought no solace. His life sentence felt like empty justice. Eleanor attended, her frail body supported by a walker, staring at the man who had shattered her world. "You took my light," she whispered in court, her words trembling, but resolute. Media coverage painted Amelia as a tragic heroine, her beauty immortalized in headlines. But Eleanor shunned the spotlight. She wanted her daughter back, not sympathy. Slowly, amidst the despair, glimmers of resilience emerged. A young nurse from Amelia's hospital, inspired by her colleagues' kindness, began visiting Eleanor weekly, helping with chores and offering companionship. "Amelia spoke of you often," the nurse said. "She was proud to care for you." These visits became Eleanor's anchor, reminding her that love's echoes lingered. She started a small garden in Amelia's memory, planting flowers her daughter had loved, roses and lilies that bloomed defiantly in spring. It was hard work, her old bones protesting, but it gave purpose to her days. Yet the pain never fully faded. On quiet evenings, Eleanor would sit by the window, watching the world move on without her. She'd trace Amelia's face in old photos, whispering prayers for strength. The house was still silent, the burdens heavier, but in her heart, Amelia lived on, a beautiful soul whose love had sustained her mother through the darkest storm. Eleanor learned, painfully, that grief was the price of deep love, and though her world had dimmed, the memory of her daughter illuminated the path forward.
In the end, Eldridge remembered Amelia not just for her beauty, but for her devotion. And Eleanor, in her twilight years, found a fragile peace, knowing that some bonds transcended even death. The story of their love became a quiet legend in the town,
A reminder that in the face of unimaginable loss, the human spirit endures, one trembling step at
A time.